Welcome to this our webinar, our webinar series. Uh, a really great topic today is how can you apply generative AI to revolutionize your product innovation process? And today I have with me an absolute amazing rising star great qualitative researcher on our team at Insights Now, Jenny O'Connor.
Hello.
And Jenny and I are going to basically go through more of a conversational approach to this webinar today to talk about this really important topic and a topic that we've seen a lot of people want to be part of and are joining us today. So with that, I'm going to move quickly through this. If you have questions at any point, you are welcome to enter them here in the chat box. Your name won't be shown unless you vote decide you want to make that public, which is fine. But anyways, at the end, this will be about maybe a 30-minute back and forth conversation and content that we'll be showing you. And then we will take questions at the end. So that's it. Anyway, excited to get going here. Jenny and I are back from a conference, and this is in Chicago this past week. It was Monday and Tuesday. It's called the SMR's The Art and Science of Innovation. And we gave a workshop on this exact subject with Mimi Sherlock, who's with the IFF Nourish division. And for those of you who know, Mimi is the BB Global Director of Consumer Insights for IFF and the Nourish division. So, and during that, the content we had, one of the speakers is a guy named Roy Whitener, and he's the SMR's president-elect for this year. And he made a comment that AI is not going to take your jobs away, but somebody who is using AI very well may. And I thought that was one of the most important quotes because AI is now becoming pervasive in all aspects of consumer and marketing research. And this today is another example of a way in which you can apply it to do amazing things. So with that, I want to really kind of go through an opening activity. And this is a poll. And I'm going to launch this poll here in a second. And if I can find it. So polls. So what I like to do is really ask you a simple question is that for those of you that are attending here, how experienced do you think you are in leveraging generative AI into your day-to-day insights? Okay. Not at all the way to highly experienced. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll here and I'm going to share the results. So it looks like most of you are very little to somewhat having experience with this. So absolutely, this is as a lot of people were attending the sessions that we had in Chicago. This is very typical. People are experimenting with AI. They're just learning about. They're getting access to new tools and so on. So AI is becoming a really important element for marketing researchers. So that said, let's move on to the session objectives today is that co-creating with AI solves these types of constraints. That is, a lot of innovation teams are constrained in the time they have to do the front end innovation. They're often constrained with the money they can use to spend and just the human resources. Bringing teams together today to spend time, especially if it's face to face, to develop winning concepts is a important process, but it is really takes a lot of human, capital to bring together. So the objective today will introduce you to some generative AI tools and approaches for concept co-creating to overcome some of these constraints. In essence, we have found that this approach we're going to be talking about today really creates capacity for innovation teams to innovate so much faster and so much better. So today, Jenny and I are going to have a conversation. We're going to be setting the stage for this. I'm going to set first the stage by talking about how generative AI is enabling insights professionals, a little bit more comments about that. Then we're going to introduce a case study using generative AI co-creation. We'll introduce a 5-step prompting sequence that we've developed, and then wrap up with some Q&A. Okay? All right. So let's start this out.
Yeah. So, Dave, what is our approach to new product design and co-creation?
Yeah. So the approach is it's based on a premise that we've learned for many years, and that is familiar with the twist. Most innovation today, if you're going to be successful, consumers need to really understand what the concept is all about, what the product is all about. And so it has to have some degree of familiarity.
Really?
But on top of that familiarity, there's huge opportunities to create twists. Those are, sort of differences in taking what is familiar and adding something that is different. And so that process, what we've done what we'll be talking about our approach today, is that number one, we're going to take familiar with a twist. We're going to conduct consumer insights, create consumer into moments of people's lives, because moments are really the basis for where people experience products and where they have senses of, of fulfillment or some sort of lack of fulfillment or aspirations for something different. Secondly, we'll take the amazing ability of the creative abilities of teams of people, and we're going to marry it with generative AI so that those teams of people can take the insights and build things very fast and very effectively. Does that make sense, Jenny?
It does. It does. I like the idea of familiar with a twist because, there's always this comfort of having something that you've used before, but, giving it a little bit of excitement. That is something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah. So, Jenny, can you give me an example what we mean by collecting insights as the front end? What does that mean?
Sure. So, what that means is really diving into going through the process of actual research and really diving what we want to find. So, what we're looking at when we're collecting actual insights is looking at a previous study and taking from it what were the key insights. Oftentimes when we do these studies, insights are great in the moment. We report them, they're absorbed, and then they kind of get put on a shelf. So taking these insights and making them have legs in life with Gen AI is really quite the treat and something that we look forward to doing in the future. So for this process, we used a study from 2023 that we did with IFS and Mimi Sherlock, where we did a customized landscape methodology on baked goods. And the heart of this research is really in the understanding that successful products come from a real life moment. You
Mm.
need to have that context to understand why a product is either doing well in that moment or not. So, we really looked at sizing out and understanding the key moments. We collected a lot of diverse data to understand if a product was doing well in that moment or not. And then also
Mm.
looked at aspiration. So maybe they went into that moment really wishing they could have a healthy product, but end up always getting something a little bit more decadent. And so we really want to understand why, because then that's going to give us great space for innovation. And this study that we did was
Mm-hmm.
a survey, a 20-minute survey in North
Mm-hmm.
America for
Yep.
consumers with baked goods. And they, of just a hair over 3,000 people completed it.
Yeah, so very easy for people to complete this. So can you step us through some of the key insights?
Certainly. We had a lot of insights, but these are the ones that we're going to actually feed into the Gen AI process that are really going to take us there. So the opportunity that we found with the most potential was the largest moment with the biggest gap in unfulfilled aspirations and ready to eat product ideas that consumers would find super satisfying for their need to have a pampering moment. We've all had this moment. It's when you're really trying to take care of yourself. This moment is in the evening, and we are at home watching TV and need to satisfy a craving. To be successful in this pampering moment, when the craving hits, it's all about convenience and indulging in those favorite
Man,
flavors.
I can just relate to that moment so well.
Yes, yes,
As can we all, I'm sure.
yes, I know. So the choices in this moment, there are baked goods, there are cookies, pastries, muffins, and they leave people feeling relaxed, satisfied, and happy. So you leave the moment just in a
Yeah.
great mood. So this is the really good stuff. This is where innovation lies. So the aspirational gaps. Right now, the biggest aspirational gaps in their buying behavior are to get a fresher options, higher quality, and maybe something with a little bit of a healthier component compared to what they're currently getting in that pamper moment.
Yep. We all aspire to have more healthy eating practices, and so on. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we use these types of insights to train a generative AI tool towards creating concepts.
So first and foremost, Dave, is understanding that the prompt really is going to dictate the quality of your prompt is going to dictate what you're getting in the end. So you really want to pay attention to what you're putting in there. So giving the Gen AI tool enough information to give you a great response. Mimi, our co-presenter, pointed out that there's even data out there saying that if you're polite to Gen AI, it gives you a different response than if you're rude. So, it's definitely conversational. So if you're rude to somebody, you're probably not going to get the best answer. But if you're polite to it, you're going to get somewhere. So making sure your prompts are robust, take into considerations that maybe Gen AI doesn't know everything. I think a lot of people see Gen AI as this all encompassing, powerful thing that knows all that's happening, and it doesn't. It needs to be
Yeah.
trained, and you need to put in the work to do so.
Yeah, something else that we discovered is that it's not just about the prompt, it's
Hmm.
about the prompt sequence. Is that
Hmm.
right?
That's true. That's true. And so going through the process of making sure that
Yeah.
it's building.
So we created a 5-step process, right?
Hmm.
So we're going to go through this, and so step us through the prompt sequence that we used to help in this co-creation.
Sure, love to. Thanks, Dave. So the first step is introducing yourself. So just giving a quick rundown of who you are, what you're working in, and a little bit about what you're looking to do. So in this prop sequence, you can see that they went down through what their job is, what the category is, what the focus is, and then what they're looking to do. So develop innovative new concepts. From this prompt, you're going to receive some pretty generic responses, but that's okay. That's where we're starting. So we're starting to feed a little bit of information about where we're going with this.
Great. Yeah.
Mhm.
So very conversational.
Yes, yes. So, step two, this is when we're taking those insights from the research and putting them in here to teach Gen AI, make it a little more customized to our study. So, right here, you see all the information that I told you that we got from our original research study, and you're just putting it in here. The results from this is going to reflect these insights.
Yeah, it's a lengthy prompt. Is that? It looks like it'll take that.
It is a lengthy prompt, and that's okay. You really want to give Gen AI enough information to work with. Different Gen AI tools have different requirements, but for the most part, as Gen AI is getting more and more down the line of its development, it is allowing longer and longer prompts.
Hmm.
So this is the output from step two. So you can see here that we have actual ideas that are a result from what our insights were. So these are a couple quick descriptions, but we're not going to stop here. And that's when we take it to step three, which is when we train it on a deliberate creative thinking tool. So in our example, we're using Scamper, and Scamper is a well-known creative tool that you are taught in different schools of frame. So the uh, creative Learning Institute teaches this, but many different other companies also go along with this. So Scamper allows you to take original ideas and then add little twists along the way to create new ideas. So the first one stands for substitute, and then for so on and so forth.
So before we go on to Scamper, though, the idea of something familiar
Yeah.
seems to be really important. And Little Debbie snacks that I see in this prompt, can you describe why this prompt includes looking at Little Debbie snacks?
So Little Debbie Snacks was one of the products that we found that people turn to in that camper moment. So that is why we're taking that little bit of familiarity and adding in new ideas to that.
Great, great.
Mhm. So this is the Scamper output. So you can see that we have substitute, combine, adapt, minify, magnify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse. And it went through and it gave you different ideas for this based off of these commands. And originally, when we first started with the Gen AI tool, you did have to teach it what Scamper was, but now it has learned it and it can go about applying this method. That's not to say that every method that you want to try, Gen AI knows how to do. Sometimes you do need to teach it or even reteach it, but sometimes it's learned along the way, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, it is a really, real amazing. You could teach these Gen AI tools, these frameworks, and this is just one type of framework, and it just went out and did it.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's incredible as a way to create many twists very fast. But each of these twists is very different type of twist. That's I found that to be a really important part of this process.
Exactly, exactly. And it's a process that we normally do as a bigger team. And, we are able to do this with Gen AI and then working with our team to really see which ones we want to move forward with. So in this case, we're going to be taking a closer look at the substitute example. So substituting a traditional flour with almond or coconut flour in the snack cakes idea for a gluten-free alternative. So this is the one that we're moving forward, but there were ideas for all the other elements of Scamper.
Right. You can go through this last step, the next two steps for any of those ideas and just create a whole suite of really interesting ideas. Is okay. So I get it. Yep.
Okay. So step four is bringing these ideas to life. So, now we've added in a brand name. So Sweet Retreat. And this could be anything. You're just going through and really seeing what what is it going to do when we give it a little bit more? If we give it a branding, how is it going to make this into a full-fledged product?
Yeah.
And this is what I came up with: Honey Hugs Oatmeal Delights.
I love that
So
name, Honey
I
Hugs.
know, isn't it so lovely? A serene earth tone package that highlights the natural ingredients. A clear window shaped like a honeycomb allows visibility of the almond flavored oatmeal cakes, emphasizing the wholesome, gluten free ingredients. Messaging focuses on the natural sweetness with honey and agave, inviting consumers to indulge healthily. Naturally sweet, comfort in every bite. We even have a tagline now: so it's really, we're really even seeing this product being brought to life. You can almost imagine it.
And you can see some of the other names for other products like Magnify. In this case, Minify to petite pleasures.
Yes, yes. I know they're all very fun. It just keeps going with all these great ideas and even gets your own brain going into a creative space as you're seeing these come through. I've learned from my own experience working with this that it just has amplified my own ability to be creative.
Hmm.
So, step 5, visualize these new ideas. So, it's great to have that description, but what does it think it's going to look like? This is a pretty fun part. So, please create an image of the Honey Hug Oatmeal Delights from Sweet Retreat idea. So here we go. So now we have a full-fledged concept here. We have this beautiful picture. I'm not sure about you, Dave, but I'm feeling pretty hungry just looking at this. It's really delivered something that is something you could start with and work on.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the amazing things about it is like as creatives, as innovation teams, um, some people are more creative than others. Obviously, that's we'll all have different types of skills. But to have a starting point is much easier to innovate from than trying to come up with ideas from square one. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
that's what I've noticed about this technique and this prompt sequence is that it creates. You just take one idea from each of the scampers. That's 6 or 7. And you could have it do additional twists. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you may have 10 or 20 ideas, all, or fully visualized concepts like this. So it's really easy to generate a lot of twists that are all based on the same research and focused on the same sort of business opportunity.
That is so true. I consider myself a pretty creative person, but sometimes it's just getting over that hill of that first idea to really start to get your brain to go down different trails.
Yeah.
So this is just huge in getting that process started.
Yep. So where do you go from here?
Where do you go from here? So the really, really important thing that we really want to remind people is you got to keep humans in the loop. It's
Mm-hmm.
as beautiful as that concept was, it is not ready to go out the door. You really want to run it by other people. So whether it's a quick litmus test amongst your team members, or is it, putting it further down the road, like using a personification activity to understand really what the mindset is of consumers when they're looking at this. Where does it fit among other snack good products? You might think that you're building a premium product, but your new snack idea is driving a beat up 1999 Ford Taurus, So, you really need to do your checks and balances and put it in front of other people and use this more as a team member. You would never just put all the pressure on one person to come up with these ideas. You really need to see Gen AI as a team member and not replacing your team.
Right. That's a really good point. So from there, say you have these vetted sort of concepts that the team has been able to look at and add the human element and further refine. So from there, what we have learned is that you can then put that into your process for vetting these or screening these. And so, one sort of basic technique we've used, you could take each of these concepts, you actually show the pictures and the full concept statements, but and do this in what something we call a tournament. It's a quantitative technique. It's a survey technique. You send these things out, and people then they see sets of these concepts, and they can pick the winner, and then the winners move on to the next level at some point. The winners, you can then rank mean score them. You can do purchase intent or other sort of metrics to really understand. You can look at the emotional impact, these to quickly vet them into a tournament. We actually have a metric we call a tournament index. And, Honey Hugs Oatmeal Delights was, floated to the top here in this one. Now, another thing you can do is, let's say Honey Hug Oatmeal Delights is the one you want to test. Let's say that's the one's moving forward. This is a max diff technique against the competitive set. These are, the products 1 through 7 here. These would be actual products in the market that they're competing against with this concept would compete against. And you can then show these products, and you can also show Honey Hugs. You can do it with and without Honey Hugs in this set and look to see how that impacts the max def choice scores. And by looking at that, you can actually look at the lift. You can look at here 21% of the choice went towards Honey Hugs. And you can see where it took share away. So here in this case, product 2 and 3, this new product idea, new concept is taking share away from these 2 competitors. So it's different approaches you can do to quantitate to say, this is the one we're going to move forward into, let's say, a product build step.
Yeah, that's always really good to validate that what you are making is something worth keeping going down that line and not getting too far along the way.
So let's summarize the process, Jenny. Yeah. So you want to step through that?
Sure. So first thing we did was we collected insights with that 2023 study, and we had our moments all well defined and had really great data going into this co-creation aspect. Dave, do you want to walk us through that 5-step prompt?
Sure. I mean, you introduced the problem, right? Very conversationally, who you are, what you're trying to do, be nice, and then you take the insights that you've generated and you apply that, and ask for new ideas based on these insights. It gives the prompt sequence focus. Then you can take, apply this creative framework along with a key product that's been in there, to try to do the twists, create all the twists with Scamper. There's other creative frameworks you can use. Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, I was just going to say that, we use Scamper, but you could train it on so many different ways that is really going to get there.
Right.
And that kind of takes us to, there's a question in there that's asking about, can you combine, substitute, and minify? So what I would say with that is you would probably want to run just the traditional Scamper first. If that's not getting you enough twist, then maybe take the substitute and be like, hey, can you try add in the minify and see what it comes up with. Yeah. But be careful not to put too much twist in your response.
Good. Yeah. If you do too many twists, the product may start not being very familiar.
Yes.
And it's really important. So finding something like Little Debbie's, or you can ask it to find a typical product, if you don't have something to provide your twists from. But anyways, then bring your products to life, and then have it visualized as a starting point for your co-creation. And I would say your co-creators teams that you could bring in at that point your stakeholders. Get them involved. as well as consumers. Get them involved. You could have
Yeah.
different groups with different segments. Get them involved in that way, and all sorts of ways that you typically would do. But so it's a great too. All right, so let's move on. So Jenny, any other tips and tricks that you might suggest for our audience?
So, tips and tricks, I would say, is going to hit on the next question I see in the chat box. So it is our responsibility as researchers to make sure that our information is secure and to also be aware of the weaknesses of Gen AI. So first point is security of your data. So in here, we always use Copilot, a protected version. So all our insights that we're feeding into this are staying within our own searches is not something that's going to be put out into the wider range of a Gen AI
Right.
learning
Unlike
capacity.
something like Chat GPT
Hmm.
4.0, which has just come out, it doesn't have that sort of protected,
Yeah.
self-contained. It's an open system, and so you got to be careful of that. I think most corporations have an IT group that will, allow or not allow various applications of Gen AI tools. And so I would recommend you check with your IT team.
Hmm.
And then there's amazing other tools coming out, every day on Apple. Just
Yeah.
intelligence is going to be launched. It's going to, I think, change dramatically what you can do with your smartphones, but that may not be a closed system.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, I would say the tip would in there would be to be proactive in looking into whether your information is protected and not just assume that it's a protected information. I would actually assume the latter, that it's not protected. So you
Yes.
really want to do your due diligence in that.
Right.
Uh, the other tips and tricks are that, there we do know that Gen AI does have biases and hallucinations. And those are things that you need to be actively looking for and making sure that, if it's a bias that's happening, you really want to remove that from your outputs and make sure that you are training it in a way that it doesn't go down a bias rabbit
Mm.
hole. And hallucinations, sometimes it's good to work with them, sometimes it's not. Dave, do you want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, hallucinations, think about it. It's not bad because humans hallucinate.
Hmm.
We make things up or we think things are correct, and our brains will fill in the blanks and so on. But so when it comes to these sort of creative things, even if you did this, you went through the same sequence, you may not get exactly the same result. And if you did the same sequence with a human being, you may not get the same result because the context changes slightly as you go
Hmm.
through this. So now, I mean, other sort of AI applications, you want it to be fairly, like if you're summarizing, a meeting or something like that, and things like that, you want to have some degree of, consistency.
Yeah.
But in here, you're going to get, you'll notice with these AI tools, you'll get semi-consistent results, but not always exactly the same. But that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So hallucinations in some cases are not going to be throw it all out the window. But if you're trying for like the summaries, like you were saying, Dave, you really don't want hallucinations. So you should be doing fast reads of your research so you know what it is. You can't just take the raw
Right.
data, throw it into Gen AI, and just go with whatever it says. You
Yep.
do need to have a pretty good grasp on the results of your research before doing this.
Right. 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 Any final thoughts before we go to a Q&A?
Final thoughts. I think the only final thought I would say is don't be, afraid to get in there and play with this. I would fully
Yeah.
admit that I'm not an early adopter to Gen AI. I would say I was super interested, but hesitant. I really wanted to see everybody else work through all the kinks. And judging by our poll, I am not alone in that. So, if I'm here talking you through a process that we found to be successful, it's something that everybody can get into. It seems overwhelming at first, but once you start finding your way through it, I highly recommend getting in there.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So we have some time. We've already kind of answered a couple of the questions in here, but not all of them. So
Yeah.
um, there's when you added in the survey data. Okay. What format did you use? Percent responses to questions, open ends, raw data. That's it. Actually, this is an excellent question. Coming back from this conference this past week, which was all about innovation, and AI was incorporated into most every talk. It is obvious that there's huge opportunities for AI to be applied to analyze open ends. And in fact, in amazing ways, you can do a segmentation of the open ends. You can have AI generated tool to how many people, let's say let's say you had 200 people, it'll tell you what then breakout would be with the different buckets of different types of responses to do things. In our case, we have applied just straight up quantitative techniques, and because we have a lot of behavioral metrics, like choice metrics as a good behavioral one, but you can apply AI as well to your open ends, as well as make your responses as easy for your stakeholders to understand. Percent responses to questions and so on like that. Very simple. Usually, can be tell a great story to help you understand what the potential opportunity is to move forward with a uh, specific concept.
Hmm. That's
So,
very true.
yep.
I think
Uh,
another question we have in here is the specific do's and don'ts regarding the insights you use to power your prompting. Um, Dave, do you have any suggestions for that?
well, um, the do's and don'ts. Prompt sequences are really important. And we have gone through and shown you an example today of one prompt sequence. And we think the sequence is as important as the process of an individual prompting. So the power comes from the sequencing. So we believe, after trial and error, this sequence seems to be working pretty well for us. And I think that for any sort of different type of application, you need to think through what that sequence is, test it out, and go from there. Same with analyzing data and qualitative data. You can analyze qualitative data at scale today, but it requires a prompt sequence to be thinking through what do you do first, what do you do second, what do you do third, and so on to get to some sort of end result. That's the best way I can answer this question. It's a very good question
It is.
in terms of, because you can give it very specific information or you can give very general information. I recommend get it specific as can be, that in a flow of questions as if you are conversing or talking to somebody else, and because one question, one prompt leads to another, think through that sequence.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. My point was going. It really aligns with what you were just saying. As far as this isn't Google, so you're not just going to put a question in and get an answer. It's a conversation. So if you're thinking about conversations, you would probably want to start more broad and then
Hmm.
narrow in and get more specific as you go along.
Right.
So having a plan of action of how you're going to do that with your insights
Right.
is where you would start. But there's a lot of trial and error. So
Yep.
if it doesn't quite work, keep going because it is a conversation. So if it's not what you were expecting or needing, don't don't just give up on it.
Right. Right. Now, I just want to show that we're here to help. Uh, we will. We have a couple QR codes that you can click on. The one here on the left. We had one question: is are you going to share the deck and all that? We will share our prompting sequence and with you. If you just click on that, you'll be able to download it. Um, if you want more information from us, you can. Here's my and Jenny's email. You're welcome to reach out and chat with either one of us about any specific questions you may have. And we can go further. The other QR code here is we have a lady named Stephanie Razor. Now, Stephanie is ready for, if you want, we'll set up an exclusive workshop. We did a 1 hour workshop at the ESMR conference this past week, and it was very well received. In fact, Roy Pointner gave a shout out and highlighted us yesterday and at his new MR sort of material that he puts out every week. And so if you're interested in that, and we'll customize it for you based on what your interests are, just click on that QR, work with Stephanie to set up time, and we'll make it happen. Okay. So with that, any final thoughts that you want to add, Jenny?
There's one more question I saw in the chat. How is the tournament index calculated? And, being the qual person, I did run and ask our staff real quick. And he told me that it was the geometric mean of various components like PI, uniqueness, max diff scores. So really depending on the survey and what was specifically important to that study.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. So if you have any other questions like that, please reach out, and we'd be glad to share.
Yep.
Okay.
Any final questions or tips or tricks from you, Dave?
No, I think we're on the front end. I think AI is changing the world. I believe that quote from Ray Pointner is, if AI is not going to take your jobs away, but someone who is applying AI could very well. AI is becoming, generative AI is tools that has so many applications. I think we all can embrace it. We've got great case studies that are coming out now. This is just one of many examples that I'm starting to see around the industry, and it's going to change us all, which is a good thing, and nothing to be afraid of. I think it's going to make our lives. We're going to have better insights, be able to do things faster, and so I'm very excited about the future.
Me too. All right.
Well, good. With that, give everybody have a great rest of your day, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. It was lovely talking to you all.
Bye.
Bye.